It's a question coming out of your brain, isn't it?
Oh, no, I'm just checking.
Checking up, there is a question. Okay, any questions? You don't have to have, it's really alright. It's nice. You can see the benefit of questions. Bring up so much.
Mēs varam redzēt, kāds labums ir, ja parādās kaut kādi jautājumi.
Or doubts, or
vai šaubas.
Pointing out my mistakes.
Vai jūs spējat norādīt kādas kļūdas.
Kas
jums patīk?
Man ir jautājums. Piemēram, es tev jautāju, kā ir ar to, ko darīt tajā brīdī, kad tu jūti, ka tu esi greizsirdīgs, piemēram, tu pamani to savu tā kā negatīvo. Ko ar to darīt? Kā to tā teikt vērst pozitīvi?
Bet tas ir obligāti tajā situācijā, ka tu esi kopā ar to personu?
Nē, vienkārši. Nezinu, tev pēkšņi, tu uznāk kaut kāda slikta doma, tu apzinies, ka viņi ir slikti, kā no tās domas tiek vaļā. Domājot kaut ko pozitīvu, vai kā labāk.
Okay, so when you notice that in your mind jealousy appears, what to do then, practically?
Okay, I think it's the thing we've been discussing all the time. It's okay, it's good to bring it out yet again.
Šķiet, ka mēs to...
Okay, if you're playing the piano,
ja mēs,
and you notice you made a mistake when you played the note, you played the wrong note.
Ja mēs spēlējam klavierus un pamanām, ka mēs esam
I ask you the question, what would you do?
Tad,
this is the point, what would you do?
Ko tu darītu tajā gadījumā?
Tā kā es esmu spēlējis klavierus, tad vienkārši tas ir noticis. Respektīvi to nevar tā teikt padarīt par nebijuši, bet es to apzinos, un tad es attiecīgi atkal nākamreiz ņemot to vērā un mēģinu spēlēt.
What would you do? She
does play piano.
Okay, good, what would you do?
What's done is done, but next time when she will play, she won't hit the...
No, even if you do, like if you're practicing. If you're practicing on your own, not at a concert. You hit the wrong note. The simplest answer, what would you do right there? Play the right note. Yes, play the right note?
Yeah.
Okay, same here. There's no difference. First in your mind, because you know musical theory, you recognize it was the wrong note.
Vispirms, tā kā tu zini mūzikas teoriju, tu pamani, ka tā bija nepareiza nots.
Here, because you're using Buddha's view of the mind, you recognize a jealous thought pops up. The wrong thought, if you like.
Šeit izmanto Buddhas metodoloģiju, tad pamani parādās.
So if you don't know, if you know it's called jealousy, if you know it's the wrong note, let's say, because you just got good ear, you can hear it wrong.
Ja tu zini, ka tā ir greizsirdība, ka tev ir laba auss.
But if you don't know musical theory,
dzirdi, ka tā ir nepareiza nots.
You won't know how to fix it, will you?
Bet ja tu nezini mūzikas teoriju, tu nezinās, kā...
Are you seeing my point? You really won't know, you'll just be, oh my God, I played the wrong note, oh, I'm so bad.
Tu nedomās tā, ak, vai es uzspēju nepareizo noti, es tik slikti.
So that's what we do now. Oh, I'm jealous, I'm so bad.
Es esmu greizsirdīga, es esmu tik slikta.
You understand? So first you recognize it's called a jealous thought.
Pirms mēs pamanām, ka to sauc par greizsirdīgu.
So when we understand Buddha's view a little bit,
un kad mēs saprotam Buddhas
skatījumu, we will know that jealousy is a result of actually not just attachment but anger as well.
Mēs zināsim, ka greizsirdība nav
tikai understand it technically. Buddha's got a very precise model of the mind, very detailed, accurate, very clear description of each of the negative states and their little story and how they function. And when we use that as our basis, we can recognize it all the more clearly.
Bet arī dosma rezultāts.
The mistake.
Un tādā veidā, ja mēs izmantojam Buddhas modeli, viņš apraksta ļoti precīzi katru negatīvo prātu stāvokli, un tādā veidā mēs precīzi varam pamanīt.
So one of the characters, isn't it? One of the characteristics of jealousy is resentment. That person, they're either more beautiful, or they're looking at my boyfriend. So this kind of, it's because of attachment, but there's an anger in it as well. How dare they?
Un tagad parādās greizsirdība, tur ir ne tikai tā komponenta, ka kāds cits iekāro man skaisto pusi, bet tur arī dusmas, kā viņi uzdrīkstās to darīt.
This is where it's crucial, not just to have a feeling, like a feeling.
Un te ir svarīgi saprast, ka te ir ne tikai kaut kāda sajūta.
But to be more precise about hearing the story that jealousy is speaking.
Bet būt vēl precīzākiem un pamanīt to konkrēto stāstu, ko tā greizsirdība mums stāsta.
The more you can hear that,
un jo vairāk mēs to spējam sadzirdēt,
this panic,
jo vairāk šī panika,
this resentment,
šī nožēla,
how dare she,
kā viņi uzdrīkstās,
then you know the character of jealousy.
Tad jūs zināt šo greizsirdības raksturu.
Then you simply do the opposite. You think the opposite.
Vienkārši domājam pretējo.
Now, like playing the right note,
gluži tāpat kā spēlējot pareizo noti.
It doesn't mean, you've got to keep doing it until you've got it perfect, don't you? It doesn't just happen perfect when you play that piece of Bach.
Tev ir jāturpina spēlēt, līdz nebūtu to perfekti. Nav tā, ka sākumā jau nospēlē Bachu perfekti.
So you play the wrong note again.
And you
fix it again.
Nospēlīsim
and you know how long it takes to perfect it. Years of steps practice.
Un tas prasa gadiem prakses, lai to dabūtu līdz perfekcijai.
You hear the jealousy.
Mēs
You
sadzirdam
catch it.
preses.
The quicker you catch it,
Un jo ātrāk mēs to
if you leave it for weeks,
ja mēs
and
ļaujam
you're already about to kill her, it's a
palikt
bit
uz
late,
nedēļām,
sort of too late, so you should have looked at it sooner.
tad mēs jau esam gatavi
This is
viņu nogalināt.
why it's so powerful to say the moment it arises in the mind. That implies already in pretty incredible capacity and introspection. It really implies a pretty developed practitioner.
Un tāpēc, ja lai mēs to spētu pamanīt uzreiz, kad tas parādās, tas nozīmē, ka mums jābūt jau ļoti attīstītam prakticētājiem.
If you've been practicing that wrong note for 5 years,
Ja tu esi praktizējis to nepareizo
it's hard to
notu,
change the habit, isn't it?
ir daudz grūtāk izmainīt to ierakstu.
But the sooner you catch it,
Bet jo ātrāk to pamani,
the quicker you can change it.
jo ātrāk to var
So the
izmainīt.
opposite to jealousy would be called rejoicing.
Un greizsirdības pretestat būtu
So in
priecāšanās.
the beginning, the main experience of jealousy is not just the thought, but you're overridden by the feeling, the pain in the heart. We know it so well.
Un mēs zinām, ka sākotnēji greizsirdība pavada ne tikai kaut kādas domas, bet arī kaut kādas sāpes sirdī un tā tālāk.
But instead of the impulse to buy into it and believe in it and follow it,
Bet šī impulsa vietā vienkārši tam noticēt un sekot,
you simply argue with it.
runājam tam pretī, argumentējam.
Okay, come on,
Labi.
you know, it's okay. He doesn't. I mean, you try and rejoice for that person.
Mēs cenšamies priecāties par šo
Be
personu,
happy for them,
priecāties par viņu,
whatever the situation is. You know.
lai kāda arī būtu situācija.
And immediately, it doesn't. You don't feel any better. You still feel just as bad.
Un tas automātiski nepadara mums priecīgus, mēs joprojām
But you've
jūtamies
got
slikti.
to start somewhere,
Ar kaut kur ir jāsāk.
and everything comes down to being thoughts.
Un viss vēl beigās ir domas.
So it's at that level we have to change them.
Un šajā līmenī mums tas ir jāizmaina.
So months after, week after month after years of practicing this,
Nedēļā,
thinking differently, changing your thoughts, rejoicing in the other person.
mēnešiem un gadiem to praktizēju, domājot pretēji, priecājoties par šo cilvēku.
Eventually that becomes more spontaneous.
Galu beigās tas kļūst daudz dabiskāks.
This is how you practice Dharma every day.
Tas
This
ir
is
tas,
exactly what you're doing every day, being your own therapist.
kā mēs praktizējam darbu katru dienu, esot paši savu terapeiti.
This is what practice is.
Tas ir tas, kas ir
It's
praksa.
not just be all holy on the cushion.
Tas nenozīmē būt svētiem uz
It's
savas
not just
pilsētas.
doing your mantras.
Ne tikai skaitīt savus
You know,
mantras.
it's not just doing all that. They're all supporting techniques
Tas nenozīmē darīt tikai to. Tās
that
visas ir
help you
tehnikas.
do this job best, because this is the actual job of changing your mind. The actual where you change from the wrong note to the right note. That's where you change your mind, but you can't. It takes immense mental effort and immense practice.
Tas viss ir tikai palīga līdzeklis, lai mēs varētu veikt šo galveno darbu, izmainīt savas domas. Bet tas prasa lielu darbu.
Are we with me? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for example, if there's two parents,
Two parents.
and a kid.
Yeah.
So the mother wants to go to concert, let's say to Lady Gaga.
That's right.
Yeah, and father is coming to teachings,
Yeah.
for example.
That's right.
So the mother is saying someone have to stay with the kid.
That's right.
And so father is saying, okay, but the teachings
Yeah,
is very
sure.
important, so
Sure.
I have to change and blah blah blah. So if I would be changed already.
If you were.
Yeah, if my ego would be less, I would tell her, yeah, go and I will sit with a kid, right? So, but the teachings is very important.
I understand.
So now is the decision, you know, and if the teachings is, it's yeah.
So what's the question?
Yeah, so what you can do it, you know, if the teachings is very important, you know, so let the mother go to the concert or miss the teachings and don't change.
So what's the question?
So what's the right decision, you know?
Same as before. I don't know why you can't think of something like get an au pair.
No, if some.
I don't know why you can't have a third option. Why you've got two? Bring the kid to the teaching. Bring the kid to live Lady Gaga. Leave the kids with the next door neighbour. Get your grandmother. I mean, there's 42 other options. It can't be that narrow.
Okay.
Not in the way the world is. Like leave my drunken husband or stay. There's not much options apart from those two. But here there's many more. I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. Say it.
Es to, ko es savu jautājumu.
You're the translator. Say it in Latvian.
Okay. Jautājums bija tāds, kad ir divi vecāki, māte un tēvs. Māte vēlas doties uz Lēdijas Gagas koncertu, viņiem ir bērns. Un tēvs vēlas doties uz mācībām, jo tās ir ļoti svarīgas un tā tālāk. Un te ir divas opcijas, ka vai viens paliek mājās, otrs dodās uz tur koncertu vai uz mācībām, vai arī nē. Tad jautājums, kāda ir šeit pareizā izvēle? Un atbilde ir tāda, ka nav tikai divas opcijas šajā gadījumā, kāpēc nevarētu nolabot kādu, lai tas paliek kopā ar bērnu, vai arī dot to kaimiņam, vai ir vēl 42 citas opcijas šajā gadījumā. Tas nav tik vienkārši.
But the point of his answer is again, how do you make a decision?
Bet atkal tas noved pie tā jautājuma, kā mēs pieņemam lēmumu.
It's just the same as the discussion beginning.
Tāpat kā iepriekšējā
And
gadījumā.
first of all, it depends where you're at.
Pirmkārt, sakarīgs no mūsu
It
posma.
depends on where you're at, you know. Let's say you've got a really selfish wife.
Teiksim, ka jums ir ļoti
Who always does
savtīgs
what she wants.
un vienmēr vēlas dabūt.
You're always letting her do it.
Un jūs vienmēr
You're
ļaujat.
really scared of her.
Un jūs ļoti baidāties
Which
no
is how
viņas.
people are, you know.
Un tā cilvēkiem notiek.
So maybe it's really good for you to stand on your own ground. Whether the Dharma is superior to Lady Gaga isn't the point.
Un tad varbūt jums tajā gadījumā labāk ir pastāvēt par sevi, un tad nav svarīgi, vai darbi
Maybe it's, you know, you feel
pārāk
it's
par
really
Lady
appropriate
Gaga.
and you stand for your, and you know, even if you're scared of sounding like you're fighting, it might be the best thing for you. You've got to know where you're at and what your mind is in and what's appropriate at the time.
Un ja jūs esat ļoti nobijies strīdēties un cīnīties aizstāvēt savu viedokli, tad varbūt tas ir pareizākais, ko darīt, bet jums vienkārši ir jāzina tas attīstības posms, kurā jūs esat.
I mean, from this point of view here, this level of teachings,
Šajā mācību līmenī
the answer every time is give the victory to others. We're going to read that first. So that will be, at this level of teachings, let the other person have what they want. It's very simple. There's no argument. But we're talking here at a more basic level.
Šajā mācību līmenī atbild vienmēr būtu sniegt uzvaru citiem, bet mēs runājam arī zemākā attīstības
You
līmenī.
understand? So you've got, again, it's not that, there's no, like she said, there's no single set answer.
Un te jau kā mēs
There's
iepriekš
many
teicām,
factors involved in every decision.
nav viens vispārīgs atbildes. Katrā atbildē notiek
First.
faktori.
Second, it depends on where you're at.
Otrām kārtām
You know, how do I play that piece of piano? You've got to ask the question. What's the best way to play it? Well, if it's a grade 12 piece and you're only a grade 1, excuse me, what can you do?
Ja jums
Everything's up to where you're at.
Ja jums ir jānospēlē tāds klavieru gabals, kas piederās 12. klasē, bet jūs esat tikai pirmajā, ko jūs varat iesākt?
Up to your capability.
Tas ir atkarīgs no
Do you
jūsu
understand the
spējām.
point?
Vai jūs saprotat?
Which is why you always got to know your own mind first. And even that means you even know the mind of the other person. Yeah.
Tas
That's the
nozīmē
point. That's wisdom.
zināt savu prātu un zināt otru cilvēku prātu. Tā ir gudrība.
Someone else? Anything else?
Citiem
Would you like to
jautājumiem.
start?
Kaut kas nav pusdienu
Or
pārdomā
whatever.
vai
Is
vispār.
there reason in your mind? No, okay. Let's go to the next verse.
Labi, tad nākošais pāns.
Getting tougher as we go.
Kļūst neviens sarežģītāk.
These words are so old-fashioned, you know, so I have to translate them to my words. It says, I mean, it says here, whenever I see beings who are wicked. I mean, who talks like that anymore? I don't. Wicked. That sounds like the wicked witch, you know. I know about in Latvia. And overwhelmed by violent negative actions, we get that one, and suffering. I'll hold, these are rare. Those are precious treasure. So what's the meaning of these cute words? What's the meaning of this?
Un šis teksts ir tādu zināmu vecmodīgu, veclaicīgu garšu, bet, tik un tā cenšas saprast. Es lūgošu būtni ar sliktu raksturu, ko nomauks stipri grēku un ciešanas kā dārgu, tāpat kā vērtīgu dārgu, kur ir grūti atrast.
So all the time, the reference point in this level of practice is you smashing your self-cherishing. That's the bottom line.
Tas, par ko būtībā šis teksts runā, ir, ka jums ir jāizšķaida savus ego drumslās.
So it's obvious that if you're trying to smash self-cherishing,
Un ir acīm redzami, ja jūs cenšaties iznīcināt
the quickest way to do it
ātrākais veids, kā to izdarīt,
is to, you know, as we're trying to talk here, is to greet the thing or the event or the person that threatens it.
ir
Happily greet, take on board, welcome.
lai sagaidītu visu, kas izaicina šo jūsu pašu apmierinātību un ego.
That's it. This is what we're trying to do here. This is the job every time. The reference point throughout this thing is how to smash your self-cherishing.
Un tas ir tas, ko mēs šeit cenšamies izdarīt, iznīcināt savu pašlūgošanu.
This is the point through all of this.
Un tas ir caurījušies visam šim.
Self-cherishing is putting me first.
Pašlūgošana nozīmē, ka es savu izvirzu priekšplānā.
Like we're practicing and learning to put others first.
Un mēs praktizējam izvirzīt citus priekšplānā.
So here, you know, it means mean or horrible people. The world, we know the world is full of them.
Un tad te tiek runāts par sliktiem, briesmīgiem cilvēkiem.
You know, because this was written back in, you know, in quite medieval, pre-medieval, it's more like 10th century, I think, I forget now, 11th century. Yeah, I mean, it was probably pretty quiet in Tibet. You didn't have radio, television, phones. You probably knew one little village. So, you know, you think of that context, and you think of some naughty fellow down the road who probably steals the money, not multi-mass murderers who drop bombs and destroy people. You never heard of such a thing in Tibet, you know.
Un tad jāņem vērā, ka šis teksts tiks sarakstīts arī pirms viduslaikiem kaut kādā 10. gadsimts vai plus mīnus kaut kāds tāds laiks, ka Tibetā tas bija visnotaļ mierīgs laiks, labākajā gadījumā, tur ciematiņām bija kāds vienas zaglis, kas nelika mieru cilvēkiem, bet tur nebija plašsaziņas līdzekļi, kuros informēja par atombumbām cilvēkiem, kas karo un tā tālāk.
So it's kind of intense the way we see the world now, so nakedly everywhere, every minute.
Un šobrīd mēs uz pasauli raugāmies daudz intensīvākā veidā.
And you could say this is a perfect environment to accomplish compassion and bodhicitta.
Un savā ziņā tā ir ideāla vide, kurā attīstīt līdzjūtību.
The more suffering, the better.
Jo vairāk ciešanu, jo labāk.
From the point of view of you having plenty of grist to the mill to encourage your, to smash your ego, right? To smash your self-cherishing.
Tādā ziņā, ka mums ir pietiekoši degviela tām dzirdām, lai varētu iznīcināt savu ego.
And again, you've got to have a fundamental view of karma here.
Un atkal ir jāzina karmas būtība.
Because when you're seeing someone harm someone else,
Jo, ja mēs redzam, ka kāds ir pār citam,
the usual materialist view,
parastais materiālists skatījums
you
būtu
have compassion for the victim and get angry at the oppressor.
līdzjūtība pret upuri un agresīvu
Straight away.
agresoru.
Because that's based upon the philosophy that we're all innocent victims, we're all made by our parents, we all start at conception, and no one knows why there's terrible people, and no one knows why they're suffering. This is the view we all hold in our mind now.
Jo tas ir tas uzskats, ka mēs visi esam no dzimšanas nevainīgi un nav nekāda iemesla, kāpēc ir šādi slikti agresori un tā tālāk.
So this level of compassion is not what we're used to.
Un tas līdzjūtības līmenis nav kaut kas, ko mēs
violent, evil people and have your heart reach out to them and think of them as something precious.
Un mēs neesam pieraduši domāt par agresīviem, briesmīgiem cilvēkiem kā līdzjūtības avotu.
Why precious?
Un kāpēc lai viņi vispār būtu dārgi?
Because it's, you know, you're having compassion for this person, this intensely evil person, smashes your self-cherishing, your attachment, your aversion and all the rest.
Jo tas, ka mums ir līdzjūtība pret šo briesmīgo cilvēku, nozīmē, ka mēs iznīcinām savu pieķeršanos, savu neziņu un tā tālāk.
Why would you have compassion for a terrible person?
Kāpēc lai mums būtu līdzjūtība pret šo briesmīgo cilvēku? Ļoti vienkārši.
Because they're harming themselves.
Jo viņi noder pār
Out of
sevi
their own incredible ignorance.
dēļ savas neticamās neziņas.
That's the simple meaning.
Vienkāršā
Which is
nozīmē.
exactly the point we were discussing about renunciation.
Un tieši tāpēc mēs arī iepriekš runājam par atteikšanos.
Renunciation is your recognition that you're suffering.
Atteikšanās nozīmē to, ka mēs atpazīstam savas
And that you're
ciešanas
sick of it.
un ka mēs esam
And then
apriebti.
secondly, you know why you're suffering.
Un otrām kārtām mēs zinām, kāpēc mēs
Because of
ciešam
your past karma
mūsu karmas
and
dēļ,
your delusions.
mūsu maluma dēļ.
So now the same for others.
Un tagad tas pats arī ar citiem. Mēs redzam, ka citi cieš.
And that includes the harmers.
Un tas ietver arī tos, kas dara pāri.
You have to be overwhelmed by delusions, wouldn't you, to harm others?
Jums
You have to be.
jābūt maldu pārņemtiem, lai darītu pāri
And
citiem.
the whole point, this is the inner prison we're talking about.
Un tas ir tas iekšējais cietums, par ko mēs
Which is
runājam.
nothing, which is infinitely worse than the outer prison, the whole point we're making right at the beginning.
Un tas ir, šis iekšējais cietums ir daudzkārt sliktāks un trakāks par to
So
ārēju cietumu.
when you know the pain of your own attachment, your own anger, your own jealousy, your own depression,
Kad mēs zinām un pazīstam paši savu pieķeršanās neprasīs
and I
sāpes,
mean the pain of it, not the guilt, the pain, the suffering, you are experiencing yourself.
un es saku tieši sāpes, nevis vainas sajūta vai kaut ko tādu.
And the more you know this,
Jo vairāk mēs zinām
the
to,
more you see others
jo vairāk mēs ieraugam citus,
tortured by their own crazy minds.
ka arī
Tortured.
viņus spīdzina viņu
I'm
trakie prāti.
serious.
Un es to runāju nopietni.
And of course you're going to have overwhelming compassion for them.
Un tad dabīgi radīsies milzīga līdzjūtība pret viņiem.
This is so hard for us.
Bet tas ir tik grūti.
It doesn't make sense to us, you know.
Un tas nešķiet mums
To
loģiski.
have compassion for a person who harms others sounds bizarre.
Un tas, ka mums varētu būt līdzjūtība pret pārdarītāju, varētu būt docīgi.
Unless, of course, it's your mother, your father, your son, or something like that, you know.
Ja vien tas pārdarītājs nav mūsu māte, tēvs vai dēls vai tam
But
līdzīgi.
that's a good example.
Bet arī tas
The
labs
compassion we're talking about here
Tā līdzjūtība, par kur
is
mēs
the
runājam
compassion
šeit,
that a mother has for her junkie kid.
ir līdzjūtība, kāda ir mātei pret savu atkarīgu bērnu.
You know, everybody else can't stand him.
Protams, citi viņu necieš.
He's rude, he lies, he steals, he's horrible company.
Viņš ir rupšs, viņš zog, viņš melo.
But the mother, her heart breaks for him. Why?
Bet mātei sirds lūst viņa dēļ,
Because she can see that he's harming himself.
jo viņa redz, ka viņš kaitē sev pašam.
This is the basis of compassion.
Un tas ir līdzjūtības pamats.
Everything in here is about that, you know.
Un viss šeit runā par to.
But once you understand, again, once you understand renunciation,
Un atkal, kad mēs saprotam
karma
atteikšanos,
and delusions,
karmu un maldas,
you're suffering.
mūsu
We're
ciešanas.
sick of it.
Mēs esam
And
apriebuši.
what can I do to change?
Mums tās ir apriebušās, ko mēs varam mainīt.
Same here.
Tieši tāds.
That's right. You can't have compassion until you've got renunciation.
Mēs nevaram attīstīt līdzjūtību, kamēr mums nav atteikšanās.
Drīkstēji jautājums.
Jā.
Skolotāji teica, ka viņi spīdzina paši sevi ar tiem saviem prātiem. Ja? Līdz ar to mums būtu jārodas līdzjūtība pret viņiem. Bet viņi jau darot tās sliktās lietas ne uz 100% sevi spīdzina. Viņi, teiksim, izdarot kaut ko sliktu, ja? Saņem kaut kādu eifórijas sajūtu. Uz kā bāzes mēs nevaram just līdzjūtību pret viņiem.
Okay, so in this example of a junkie, when he tortures kind of himself, basically he gets euphoria for himself while he does that. So that doesn't make us so easy to feel compassion for them. Kāpēc ne?
Tāpēc, ka, pieņemsim, es redzu, ka viņš priecājās tajā momentā. Es to prieku saprotu, jo es esmu pats viņu izjūtis. Ja? Kur līdzjūtība tam, ka viņš izjūt prieku? Kāpēc? Ne sliktā nozīmē, kāpēc, ja? Bet priekš kam just līdz tam, kurš priecājās?
Okay, so you have to be compassionate towards someone who is kind of happy at that moment.
It's funny. The only way you'll have this compassion and understanding
Vienīgais veids, kā tev var būt šī
is when you understand your own attachment, because this is exactly the same.
Vienīgais veids,
Attachment to money, attachment to being loved, attachment to sex, attachment to comfort, attachment to pleasure. You mightn't call yourself a junkie, but this is the point about what Buddha is saying. Attachment is.
Tev līdzjūtība var būt tikai tajā gadījumā, ka tu izproti pats savas ciešanas, kā tās caurvīt tev, neatkarīgi no tā, vai tu esi atkarīgs no naudas, seksa, narkotikām vai dejebkā attiecībām. Tu vari izjust līdzjūtību, kad tev ir apriebušās tā savu pieķeršanās un tam līdzīgi.
So the only way you'll have compassion for a person who's a junkie is when you understand your attachment. That's again why you can't have valid compassion until you know your own suffering.
Derīga faktiska līdzjūtība tev būs tad, kad tu pats būs līdz galam sapratis savas pašas
Because at the moment, this is what I'm saying about the second level of suffering according to the Buddha in the first noble truth.
Šobrīd, kā es jau iepriekš teicu, šis otrais tiešām līmenis
is what we call happiness.
Ir tas, ko mēs saucam par laimi.
Getting what the attachment wants.
Mēs dabūjam to, ko vēlas pieķeršanās.
It's a subtle level of suffering.
Bet būtībā tas ir smagāks tiešām līmenis. Izskatās kā laimi.
But actually it's a more subtle, long-term suffering because it increases more craving and no satisfaction ever comes.
Bet tās ir ilgtermiņa ciešanas, kas ir smalkākas, un mēs redzam, ka ilgtermiņā tās nedod nekādu gandarījumu atmierināt.
When you know this in your mind,
un kad tu zini, tu slēgā savā prātā,
then when you see a junkie,
tad, kad tu redzēsi
easy
nākamā,
to see the suffering.
tad būs viegli redzēt ciešanas.
Does that sound like good theory?
Vai tas izklausās saprotam?
Tas izklausās saprotam, bet, vienkārši tas, ka es neizprotu, kā skolotājs saka, līdz galam šīs ciešanas, ja, neļauj tomēr man saprast, kā es te momentā varētu praktizēt līdzjūtību pret to, kurā es redzu to prieku.
So, the fact that he doesn't understand his own suffering in this moment, it kind of doesn't let him experience this compassion towards this person.
Who enjoys?
I understand. No, I understand. So then, what do you think? So, if we're looking at the Buddhist view, what would be necessary for you to do? I'm not saying you have to be a Buddhist, but if you're using the Buddhist view, what does it tell you?
Un, ja mēs izmantojam Buddhas skatījumu,
You should be doing more.
šīm lietām, kas tev tagad vairāk būtu jādara lietas labāk?
Tas ir jautājums man?
Jā, tas jau tāds.
Yeah, you. We're talking about you, it's your view.
Pieņemsim, es redzu, ka divi iemīlējušies jaunieši, ja, it kā
What's his
izjūt
next
laimi,
No. What's the next thing for you to
jautāt.
do? If you are hearing the Buddha says, let's say we're looking at Buddhism here, okay? Looking at Buddha's view. Looking at Buddha's view.
Mēs runājam par Buddhas skatījumu.
Buddha says a person who's got attachment to being a junkie, they're desperately suffering.
Buda saka, ka atkarīgais, kas seko savai pieķeršanai,
So here you are trying to look at Buddha's view.
ir ārkārtīgi nelaimīgs.
And then you hear that.
Un tad mēs to
And as you
dzirdam.
just say,
Un
you
kā,
can't have compassion for him. You can't see his suffering.
un tad, kā tikko teicu, tu tajā brīdī vēl nespēji izjust.
And then I explain what Buddha says.
Un tad es
It's
paskaidroju,
because you haven't realized your own suffering and attachment yet.
tā kā tu neesi līdz galam izpratis savu
So if you're long as
pieķeršanos.
you're trying to practice Buddhism,
Un ja tu centies praktizēt
given
budismu,
this little scenario,
ņemot šo
what would be your next step?
kāds ir tavs nākošais solis?
Es nezinu.
He doesn't know.
Good, okay, so tell him.
Labi, kāds pasakat viņam?
Jāmācās un jāpraktizē.
He has to learn and practice.
No, let's be more precise, please.
Bet precīzāk.
Jāvēršas pret darbību, bet vienlaikus saglabāt līdzjūtību pret šo cilvēku kā pret personu. Jo pret darbību ir...
Really simple, it's a one sentence. What's the answer?
Kāda ir
Has
atbilde?
anybody got it yet? What's his next step to practice?
Realize his own suffering.
Thank you. Tell him.
Jāsaprot savas pašu ciešanas.
Buddha's either right or is wrong. We're looking at his model here.
Un Buda, viņam vai nu ir taisnība vai nav.
A person who's a junkie has got attachment. Do you agree?
Narkomāni ir
Yes.
You agree?
atkarība.
So Buddha's saying attachment causes suffering.
Buda saka, atkarībā pieķeršanās.
Do you agree with that actually? Do you agree with that?
Vai tu piekrīti?
Yes.
Okay, then why can't you see that he's suffering if he's got attachment? You just said you agree it's suffering, so how come you can't see that he's suffering?
Un tad kā
What's the simple answer to that? You just said you agree that attachment is suffering. You just said you agree that a junkie has got attachment, but you just said you don't think you should have compassion for him. So what bit is where's the disconnect there for you?
Un tu tikko piekriti, ka
It's a very simple question, be logical.
pieķeršanās ir ciešanas, kad ciešanu dēļ vajadzētu izjust līdzjūtību, bet ja tu neizjūti līdzjūtību, tad kas pietrūkst?
Bet es skatos uz tās ir pārmaiņu ciešanas, un mans prāts pievēršas tajā momentā uz tām pārmaiņām, tad, kad viņš tā kā ir dabūjis, viņa pieķeršanās ir dabūjusi to, ko viņš vēlas, viņš izjūta eiforiju, un mans prāts ķerās uzreiz pie tā, ka viņš šobrīd ir tomēr laimīgāks nekā es, kuram nav dabūjusi.
No, what you're doing is you're resentful. How dare he get pleasure? Who does he think he is? That's what you're saying.
Tas, ko tu faktiski saki, ir kā viņš uzdrīkstinās justies labāk, uzdrošinās justies
You want
labāk.
suffering to be miserable, depressed, poor person being forced to put a needle in his body, poor thing.
Tu vēlies, lai ciešana būtu acīm redzams, lai viņš justos nožēlojumu, tur
Tad es varētu izjust līdzi.
Then he could feel this...
That's right. So you've got the same view as the rest of the world of what compassion is. It's for the innocent victims, dear. You want innocent victims. You want to be angry with these wicked people. Darling, it's okay, we all like this.
Tev tas skatījums ir šobrīd tāpat kā parastai materiālistiskai pasaulē, ka tu vēlies izjust līdzjūtību tikai pret nabaga cietējiem.
So keep seeing your own attachment.
Tā kā
and keep seeing how it causes you suffering.
Raudīties pats uz savu pieķeršanos un
Then slowly you'll see how he's suffering.
Kā tas rada tevī ciešanas.
Slowly.
Un tad pakāpēc
Relax.
Redzēs ciešanas arī viņā. Pakāpēc.
Meanwhile, enjoy your sex, drugs and rock and roll.
Pagaidām izbaudas sex, narkotikas un rokenrolu.
Any other points? Okay, next verse.
Labi, nākošais pants.
More horrible by the minute. So when out of envy, others mistreat me, with abuse, insults or the like, I will accept defeat and offer the victory to them.
Kad citi greizsirdīgi sodīti pret mani ļauni izturēsies, lamās, apvainos un tam līdzīgi, es trenēšos pieņemt zaudējumu un piedāvāt uzvaru viņiem.
We all know this one.
Mēs visi
At work, in our close friends, among friends, in our work, people, colleagues who are jealous of our, say, success, jealous of our characteristics, our qualities. We know this, everybody knows this one.
Mēs visi zinām, par ko šeit runa, ka, teiksim, ka darbā, kad kāds cits mūs
They're
apskauž,
envious of you, they're jealous.
Viņiem nepatīk mūsu panākumi.
So they insult you, they talk about you behind your back, they criticize you.
Viņi kritizē mūsu, runā mums aiz muguras.
Don't we all know this one?
Mēs
Every
visi
single person
zinām.
in this room doesn't know, don't you know this one?
Visi, par ko
Could be
šeit
a
runa.
family.
Arī ģimenē.
And you know how painful it is.
Un mēs arī zinām,
Unbelievable. To be criticized, especially if you haven't done anything wrong.
mēs zinām, cik tas ir sāpīgi.
And you know it's because they're jealous or something.
Mūs aprunā par kaut ko tādu, ko mēs